This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this live safari. We have just found a really nice herd of buffaloes, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on them. So without further ado, welcome aboard your very own live safari. So we're with this nice big herd of buffaloes. A few of them are lying down and enjoying the sun after a very cold day. We are currently sitting here at and Beyond Ngala Private Game Reserve, and my name is Eric. Behind camera is Owen. There's his thumb. And this herd of buffalo is really quite interesting. And the reason why we decided to come into this area is there's a waterhole not too far away from us. And we heard from via the grapevine that there was a pride of lions somewhere around here. And as we got here, this herd of buffaloes was here with no lions to be found. And so I think these buffaloes, on their way coming towards the waterhole to have something to drink, must have chased these lions away somewhere. But what's really quite interesting about the herd is if we just look at the overall condition of them. So if we look at that one on the left or that one on the right even, if you look at their hips and look at the fur on their backs, a lot of their fur is starting to lose or starting to fall off. Their hips are starting to show, and every single one of them has got a really nice big set of horns. And so this is a group of bachelors or a group of buffalo bulls that have grouped together for protection. You can just imagine how it's a much easier to work together in a group of 20 to chase away a pride of lions as it is just trying to chase one away. And just talking about how lions and buffaloes chase each other around, Steve's got some lions and he's waiting to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we have found, this morning anyway, 3 lionesses of the Unkuhuma Pride. My name is Steve, and I'm joined by Craig Zammit on camera, and as always, very excited to have you with us on this afternoon's safari. Now, if you have questions, comments, you are most welcome to send them through to #WildEarth. Throw them in the YouTube chat stream or use @FC on Twitch. Now everybody, these 3 lionesses I spent the whole morning yesterday trying to find, and then after our show yesterday, we found them at a watering hole. They came to say hi. We always talk about how important watering holes are. They came to say hi, and then we followed them around this area, and then we went home, and someone that I left with the lions ended up finding them killing a buffalo. 3 lionesses that have just become adults. Neither of them have had cubs yet, and they have taken down a fully grown male buffalo bull, which in my opinion is really quite special. Excuse the scenes if you are not up and not sort of for these sorts of scenes. There is a dead animal that was brought down by the lions. It is dead, long since dead, last night, and the lions have been eating on it slowly. A big male buffalo like that can weigh anywhere from 650 kilograms to 900, depending on who you ask, really. So they will be busy with this buffalo for days and days. But for 3 lionesses to bring down a buffalo is really something quite spectacular. And one of the other guides at Djuma actually witnessed it last night. High beyond top effort indeed. Now, I've seen a lioness once before with a fully grown male giraffe, and she was injured. So I've no doubt that she used the terrain to her advantage. And where we are here, it's just off the side of the road here, and there's a little bit of a dip and a depression and some drops. And I have a very strong feeling that these lions managed to trip this buffalo up. And once it was on the floor, it made for a much easier kill. Well, Lauren Arthur is back and she's live. She's around the corner and she'd like to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I am indeed just around the corner looking at these magnificent water horses. Yes, hippos. We're at Chitwa Lodge and they're all out in front of us, which is something quite unusual during the day. So it's great to be back. My name is Lauren. I do have Theo on camera today and we're not too close to these hippos. Why? Because I find once we get too close in the vehicle, they actually dash off into the water. So we're trying to admire them from far and you can see the little youngsters in the middle there. They're obviously foraging, and hippos tend to do this at night time. They tend to be primarily nocturnal. So I think the reason we're seeing them all out like this today is because it's winter. It's cold. They're trying to get sunshine, and possibly the grass that they're eating or foraging on at night time is maybe not nutritious enough. If you look around, the vegetation is, well, wearing thin. Lots of the grasses are dead. Lots of trees have lost their leaves, flowers have disappeared, so it's very possible that that's what's happened. And if we just take a look at that hippo at the back there, Theo, it's got quite a lot of injuries. I'm going to look in my binoculars. Biltong, absolutely. Animals, oh, look at those oxpeckers hanging on. Ouch. Yes, animals would get sick from drinking decontaminated water, but only if it was contaminated water. Only if it was contaminated with chemicals, pollutants, any sort of human element, by humans putting contaminants in there. Animals absolutely can get sick. We had a mass fish die off at this dam last year because there was far too many hippos. They exceeded the carrying capacity of this dam, and their poop, shall we say, contains so much nutrients that the bacteria began to remove the oxygen from the water. And it created hypoxic areas, which means little or no oxygen. And a lot of the fish died and they washed up on the shore. So just to go back to this injured one, you can see the oxpeckers are right in on the injuries. And that's why they now have a terrible reputation of being vampires. So I'm going to try and get a little bit closer to our ginormous grey mammals, and you guys are going to say hi to Dylan at the Tswalu Kalahari.
Good afternoon from what is nothing short of a spectacularly beautiful day out here at Tswalu Kalahari. As always, it's fantastic having you with me. My name's Dylan, for those of you who haven't met me. And I've got something fun planned this afternoon. I have no idea if we're going to get it right, but we'll give it a bash, and I can't tell you exactly what it is. If we see fresh evidence of them or fresh signs, then I will point them out to you. But until then, I'm going to keep it under wraps and play my cards close to my chest. But how magnificent is the scenery that we're in here at the moment, eh? And if you think of these rocks that we're standing on, the absolute antiquity of these things. These go back 1.6 billion years. 1.6 billion years. This landscape is incredibly ancient. And for me, it is nothing short of a privilege to be able to actually be in this landscape and try and understand it and explore it. And not only that, but be able to actually share it with you. So while we're cruising around looking at things, please don't be shy. Engage with us. Ask us the questions that you've always been wanting to know the answer to about nature and about this environment. I can't help you with any of the others, but it's always good having you with. And yeah, it'll be fun to see what we can find this afternoon. Like I say, I do have an idea of what I want to get, but I'll keep that to myself until I get proper sign of it, and then I'll show you what we got. What a beautiful place, eh?
We are watching this gorgeous herd of buffalo that have just come down to Ndlovu Dam. Some bulls, females, even some youngsters there. It's awesome to sit here with them as they come down on this winter's afternoon. As you can see, they've finished drinking now. They're starting to look to head back up the slope towards the bushveld, do a bit of feeding on this dry grass around here. It's a fairly big herd. There's over 40 individuals here. It's the same herd that's been around here a little bit. Welcome back, everybody, live to Djuma, where we are with our very flat and fat cats. These 3 young lionesses have eaten their fill. They've probably eaten 2, maybe 3 times since they made the kill. And you can see that belly. It is enormous. Now, some people will tell you that lions can eat 25% of their body weight. In other research, you'll find that they talk about a male lion being able to eat 36 to 40 kilograms of meat in one go. But 25% for a male lion would be about 50 kilograms. So these individual lionesses here can probably get between 25 and 35 kilograms in their belly at one time. Can you imagine that? Talk about your Christmas dinner. Sophie, is the ideal terrain for lions to hunt on? Well, lions are quite adaptable. They've got quite a few different types of terrain they hunt on. But, Craigie, can you get this relief in here a little bit with this slope? Maybe we can see how they managed to get this buffalo. But down here, there's a slope coming down from the road, and there's a dip and a few little trip-up holes along the way. A drainage line that this buffalo would have been chased through, and possibly then just maybe tripped one of his legs, and then they might have jumped on him. And once these guys are down, it's quite hard for them to stand up if all 3 lionesses jumped on his back. But normally it's the pulling down and taking their feet from under them that is the hardest thing to do. That requires a male. But lions can hunt anywhere. Really is no sort of ideal spot. Their eyesight's very good. Their hearing is very good. Their coordination and speed is essential for what they do. But working as a pride, as a unit, is definitely where their advantage lies. But we have them in open plains, grasslands, very woodland areas, semi-woodland areas. Every prey animal they hunt has got a different strategy. And if you can trip up a big animal, it makes life very easy. And the Unkuhuma Pride are absolute experts at hunting buffalo.
These buffaloes still haven't moved around too much. In fact, most of the small group that we're with have gone from sitting up or standing at least to sitting down. And there are about 4 of them left that are still standing up. And so the fact that they're all laying down, they're in the sun, they seem to think that the threat has already passed. And so those lions must have been chased away by these buffaloes. And you just have to think that it's the advantage of the numbers that gave them the upper hand. Because, I mean, if you look at what Steve's witnessing, it's 1 buffalo bull, so it's more than likely pretty much the same age as these buffaloes, except it could have been by itself or maybe in a smaller group of 2 or 3 animals. And then that's a lot harder to protect themselves against some lions who are really looking for a meal. And they've scattered themselves out quite nicely. And each one of them is almost facing a slightly different direction, and so there's no chance of those lions surprising them. So Nicola, absolutely these lions will be able to sense them, and if they can't see them, which is probably a lion's strongest sense, buffaloes being so big give off a very strong smell. And so if lions are walking in towards the wind, they'll be able to smell them. And then I might just stop talking for a little bit, and you might be able to hear the birds calling, you might be able to hear the hoofs hitting the ground, and the lions will definitely be able to hear that too. Just as I say that, all of the birds stop making noise, but there's some rustling of the grass going on. And so those lions will be able to hear that. And this is, for this area, it's a small group. I mean, it might only be 20. There's sometimes up to 400 or 500 buffalo together. And when they're moving around, they make a lot of noise. And some prides of lions will actually follow a herd of buffaloes for a number of days and wait for their moment and wait for the right opportunity to strike. So it will be very interesting. I'm sure because it's quite hot, I'm sure those lions would have settled down somewhere. It will be interesting to go and see how far away they've gone, because if they decide to, okay, so whilst we're hanging around here, I think we'll send you straight across to Lauren, who's got some oxpeckers on a different animal.
Oxpeckers everywhere, red-billed oxpeckers here all over these hippos, this mother and calf. And this, what we're looking at, is symbiosis. And symbiosis is basically a relationship or a biological interaction between two very different biological organisms. Now this can be coral and zooanthelle, which is a type of algae. It can be clownfish and an anemone, or right here it can be a great big hippo and the oxpeckers. Now it's always said to be a mutual relationship, so they both benefit. The hippo benefits by getting it clean, and the oxpeckers benefit by getting food. And of course, they're probably not going to be attacked resting on a hippo. But lots of new science now tells us that it's not mutualistic, and it could be parasitic. These oxpeckers are after blood, and they keep the wounds open by continually pecking inside the wounds that you can see happening here, especially fresh wounds. They're not allowing the wounds to heal naturally or close, and therefore they keep the wounds open and they get bigger and bigger, and this can really be detrimental to the animal. The animal's health, it can promote infection, weaken the immune system, and generally just be very bad for the animal, can even result in death. So new science is saying that the oxpeckers may not be as, well, have pure intentions as we originally first thought. But it's a debate. There's lots of people on either side of the fence in that one, but it's still a symbiotic relationship. You can get mutualistic, where both benefit. You can get commensalism, where one benefits and the other is not harmed, or you can get parasitic, where one really, really benefits and the other is harmed. There's all sorts of relationships in nature. And this one, the oxpeckers and the hippo, right now is very much questionable. They're definitely feasting on the wounds of the hippos. Hippos are notorious for fighting. You will very, very often see wounded and injured hippos. It's very common, especially in winter, because they have to fight. Water levels are normally very, very low. Winter is harsh. Linda, yes, I guess you're right. They're small carnivores, absolutely. Sitting on giant big herbivores. They drink blood. They eat ticks. Absolutely, oxpeckers are carnivores. And the shrill, that call, Eric's right. Sometimes they can be the sign that there's buffalo or some sort of big herbivore around when you can hear the oxpeckers. Now, it's not so easy for the oxpeckers to get on the hippo's back when they're in the water. So the fact that this mother and calf are out the water is perfect. That's why they're all on this pair. You can see the calf, the youngster, right at the back there has also got oxpeckers on it. They also get a free ride. Hitchhikers. They don't really have to do much. Okay, I've heard there's a leopard in this area, so I'm going to do my best to find her.
So we haven't moved, but what we've just seen is a lion that's walked past these open grass clearings, and they've just lain down watching these buffaloes, and the buffaloes have no idea that the lion is there. When we looked, it looked like it was one of the sub-adults. So it didn't look like it was one of the proper females that would lead the hunt. But either way, it's looking and it's trying to see if it might find an opportunity to have a second go at these buffaloes. So it's really exciting. I don't think anything's going to happen yet, but it's good to know that the lions are literally less than 100 meters away from this group of buffalo bulls. And so something is going to happen. It's just a matter of when today.
Still here at the Ndlovu Dam next to the camp at Pride Lands, and now elephants come to join the buffaloes. Buffaloes have just moved off a little bit. You know, elephants always have right of way. Even though there's a lot more buffalo, they're not as powerful as this elephant is, so the elephants just pushed them off slightly. I think they basically had finished drinking, so they're just moving off. They're starting to feed on this coarse grass. I was going to say sparse grass. It came out of sporse. And, yeah, that's why they drink so much, buffaloes, because they're eating this dry stuff. Oh, time to rest. These old buffalo bulls, they don't like to move around as much. This one doesn't even look, it's just getting a bit tired. It is a nice warm afternoon. There's a few birds also dust bathing there. Look at that. The buffaloes on the ground, there's a few birds also dust bathing right there behind that, the female. That's gorgeous. So we're really enjoying this. So nice to spend time with these animals, and they've been sticking around. You know, this is why that lioness has also been around, I think, because of this water and because of the buffaloes. You know, maybe she can catch a calf. It would be a big ask for her, but wouldn't that be great?
Welcome back live to Djuma, where we've moved a little bit closer and braving the smell which is emanating from around these lions. They are very flat and breathing very heavily with their full bellies. And many people do ask, why do they breathe so heavily? Their belly is so full, it pushes up their diaphragm, and it actually decreases the amount of air that the lungs can pull in. So it leads to much more shallow breaths. It's one of those sort of adaptations that lions have to feed as quickly as you can, get as much food in your belly as you can, as a form of competition. Because the more you eat, the stronger you get, and the more chance of survival there is. Those animals many years ago decided to just eat very lightly. As far as lions are concerned, didn't do very well. But these three are very close-knit. Look at that belly. They're very close-knit. They're spending a lot of time really close to each other. We had some wonderful scenes last night of them playing. David, yes. Well, where we are in Djuma and in the Sabi Sands, hyenas have an enormous respect for lions down here. And hyenas don't give lions too much of a hard time. I mean, in saying that, these lions are so flat and so unaware of what's going on, it seems. But if a hyena did move down to the kill, they would get quite aggressive towards it and would chase it off. They would, if they caught it, kill it. But with that full belly, her charging speed, or their charging speed, is quite well diminished. So if they can keep them away from the kill, that's generally enough for them. They don't need to seek them out and kill them. But competition between lions, hyenas is definitely very, very strong.
Absolutely, I agree with Steve. And another thing, the competition between lions and buffaloes is also incredible. And the lions were successful last night with Steve and his sighting that he's got. And we are hoping that the lions might be successful again tonight. And so we have changed position a little bit. We're looking onto that same small group of buffalo bulls. And we've just managed to see one of the pride of lions that we saw a little bit earlier on. So as we pan across, you'll see him shortly. And the interesting thing is, a little bit earlier on, we were talking about the senses of the lions. And so the wind is blowing from the buffaloes straight onto us, which means that the lions can smell, hear, and see these buffaloes. But probably even more importantly is because the wind is blowing in this direction, it's taking the lion's scent away from the buffaloes. And so the buffaloes aren't able to use their sense of smell or their sense of hearing or their eyesight. Or I suppose they could use their eyesight, but he is lying down. And we do see a couple more members of the pride, but they are in the grass. I don't really want to move around too much, because as soon as we move around and a buffalo looks at us and they see the lions because of us, we could ruin the hunt for the lions. We've got a question from a very special place, in the Children's Hospital in Boston, and basically it depends. I would say if I had to give an average number, it would be between 8 and 12 would be around about the amount of lions that you see in a pride, but it can only be 3, like the lions we're seeing at Djuma this afternoon. This pride that we're looking at the moment with the males combined is 18. And I think sometimes the pride of lions can be up to about 30, 35 strong. But as soon as there becomes too many lions, there's too much competition when it comes to food. And then they'll start fighting against one another. And eventually, because of that competition with the different lions, they might even separate and split. And the cool thing is it actually happened to this pride, I think, in about 2012. And there was a total of about 26 lions in this pride eventually. There was too much competition, and so they ended up breaking away. And we're watching the main part of the pride now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Ambient Pinder Private Game Reserve. My name is Jared, and we've got Marcel behind the camera this afternoon, and we've decided to come out to the southern parts of the reserve today, where it's nice and open, to see what we can see. And we've managed to find quite a few different species, and that's what I absolutely love about this part of the reserve. Is you go park on top of a hill, and you're just stop and scan, and you look what you can look for. And at the moment we've got 4 white rhinos. You'll notice that there's at least 3 adults there, and then 1 youngster. That youngster probably about half a year old, 6 months, maybe a little bit less than that. And then as we go off to the left of them, we've got a beautiful size herd of zebra, and amongst the zebra we've got a couple of giraffe as well. Looks like 1 younger male giraffe, the one that's feeding on the tree facing towards us, and then 2 females behind him. Ooh, and there's a head of another female just behind the female on the left, and then a fairly decent size herd of zebra known as a dazzle. This does look like a breeding herd, so that will consist of a dominant male, a stallion, and then a couple of females, and then I see 1 or 2 younger zebra. And then if we pan off even further to the right, there is off in the distance a medium-sized herd of buffalo, also a breeding herd, a little bit different to the zebra that we saw earlier, which would have 1 dominant male. That herd of buffalo would have quite a few dominant males. There isn't a singular dominant male. 666, it is most certainly, you said vegetarians flocking together. It's more, you could rather say herbivores flocking together, but I suppose they are still vegetarians. And we've got browsers. So the 2 types of herbivores that we have here are browsers and grazers. So browsing means eating of leaves and branches. I always remember that because browsing starts with a B, and B in branches. And then with the buffalo and the zebra, we've got some grazers. Easy to remember that grazers eat grass because grazing starts with a G, and so does grass. So we've got buffalo, zebra, and giraffe in this area. And some rhinos off in the distance as well, who are grazers. So 3 different species of grazers, 1 browser, and I'm sure if I sit here for a little bit longer, the type of vegetation that we're in, we should spot some warthog, maybe a wildebeest, and in these thickets where these giraffe are busy feeding, hopefully we'll find some inyala.
The most magnificent thing is happening in front of us. We have 4 male water bucks, young males. This is a bachelor herd, all sparring. Look, they've doubled up, 2 pairs. You can hear their horns clashing. Now, this is not very serious. They are a bachelor herd. They're younger. I don't think any of these males are particularly the dominant male. And they're practicing their sparring. I've never seen water bucks do this, believe it or not. And of course, boys will always be boys, and water bucks are actually said to be responsible for the most deaths between males during fighting than any other antelope. But I've never seen them spar like this. You always find water buck close to water, and we're really not far away from the dam. Cool, it was cool. They've been doing it for so long. I hope they do it again. But it's not serious. They're practicing, they're developing, they're testing one another. Am I stronger than you? Are you stronger than me? But it was magnificent. I love water buck. But they do get bigger than this, the males, and the horns do get bigger. And that's why I know these are slightly younger. And they're probably going to be sparring all day. Isn't this incredible that this is happening live right in front of us? So please sit tight. We're going on a short break, but think up some questions for us, and we'll be back with you shortly.
So we just managed to find some other lions. That one there with its head up is sitting quite far away. So we aren't sure if it's one of the older sub-adult cubs or if maybe it's one of the adult females. But she's looking in the opposite direction to the buffaloes. she's more than likely looking towards the rest of the pride. And I would imagine that if these buffaloes and lions had some sort of interaction, the pride would have probably scattered and split up a little bit. And so maybe she's a sub-adult and she's just checking to see where the rest of her pride is. But it's very interesting that two species who you would almost consider like enemies are tolerating one another, and they are literally 50 meters away from one another. These lions are sleeping and they're not too interested in the buffalo. As soon as the pride gets up and starts moving towards where the buffalo are and these lions, I mean, they might be a little bit too hot to move around at this time of day still. Welcome back to all of the SABC viewers. We are still with these lions who are very, very close to the buffalo, and we've just seen another one who's picked up its head. And it took us quite a while for us to spot it, just because of the color of it and the color of the grass around it. And so, I mean, it's just so perfectly camouflaged. And we were saying that it's just quite unique that these two animals are tolerating one another, one sleeping 50 meters away from the other one whilst the lions are taking some rest in the shade. And you'll just have to think that these lions might have already got something full, or had already had something to eat last night, so maybe they're not really feeling that they need to eat something. And a buffalo is a very, very difficult thing to take down. So, I mean, in a big group like that, I said it a little bit earlier, that group of buffaloes will work together. And if they stick together and one doesn't panic and separate itself from the herd, then they should be successful in chasing these lions off. I think these lions are probably, I mean, if they are interested in some way to hunt these buffaloes, they will definitely wait for it to become a little bit darker, wait for it to become cooler, and then maybe that's when they'll take the opportunity. So we are probably going to hang around until we see some sort of movement, but it sounds like Steve's lions are feeding on a buffalo, so let's go and see how much they've eaten.
You wouldn't believe it, but one lioness has moved over to eat again. And it's quite graphic scenes, everybody, so if it is not for you, then please feel free to look away right now. But this is the circle of life. Buffalo occur in herds, as Eric was talking about, and they are very difficult to hunt in herds. Not impossible, but the natural order of things is these lone buffalo bulls get isolated from the herd. They're normally quite old, they're retirement, and they get picked off one by one by lions in their old age, and that is the natural order. Lions and buffalo have been, have been fighting against each other, or should I say competing against each other for a very long time. Lions are definitely the top predator and the buffalo's biggest threat. And Susie, it's a good question. It's not necessarily always the number, but if there are males involved, it's a lot easier. A male lion can get up to 250, some even more than that, and they just really bring the power in. To see these three youngsters, or they are adults now, they just haven't had cubs yet. To see these three bring down a fully grown male buffalo it's not something I've ever seen before. So the Unkuhuma Pride, there are 8 females. They do quite well, but 8 is a lot. It's a lot of lions, and that is the experienced lionesses there. The big girls have been around for years. They've been doing it for a long time. These youngsters are probably 4-ish now, maybe even just over 4. just under 4, and they've been a part of that. So they've watched, they've learned, and they've figured out how to do it. But when I was tracking them yesterday morning, I found tracks where these 3 had tried to catch a buffalo bull that failed. It was in a very flat, relatively open area where the buffalo is able to defend itself and run accordingly. Once they trip and fall to the ground, it's generally over for them. On their feet, they have a lot of strength, a lot of power to turn and use their body's strength to push and fight and swing those horns. And the horns are deadly, deadly, deadly. But we are going to stay here with these 3 very, sleepy and hungry lions, and that time I'll send you over to Jared, who's got a mixed herd.
So while the topic is talking about safety in numbers, and we've got various different species of animals here, we've got some buffalo off to the right, a group of rhinos in the middle, and to our left we have zebra and wildebeest. There is a little bit of a segregation between these species, which is quite normal, and some of it does have to do with safety in numbers. So on the far right, we've got the herd of buffalo, which is probably around 20 or 30 or so together. And just because they're such large animals and they're generally in large herds, they don't often need to find the comfort and safety net of other species of animals. Then we go off to the rhinos to the left, because they have a horn, or generally would have a horn, which is a defensive mechanism. And although this particular group is in a group, you'd often find a rhino by themselves, and that's because a single rhino is more than capable of defending itself. Now when we come off to the left here, we've got a group of zebra who, unlike buffalo and rhino, don't really have the defense mechanism of horns. Yes, they can kick and buck to defend themselves, so they would generally stick together just to increase their chance of survival. More eyes, more ears, better chance of seeing each other. But you'll notice that the zebra are with the giraffe, and they're not with the buffalo, they're not with the rhino, and that's because zebra will often be around giraffe because they find that having the giraffe around is handy. All these giraffe are pretty tall. A big male giraffe will get to about 18 foot, and so he can see quite a long distance, particularly when the grass is long. And the zebra will use those giraffe kind of as turrets, because those giraffe will see the lions that would hopefully not catch the zebra, but the giraffe would be able to see the lions off in the distance by their body language, and a very soft alarm call that they give off would let the zebra know that they're around. I don't think that the giraffe are necessarily with the zebra. I think it is more so the zebra are with the giraffe. Giraffe, although they are preyed upon, aren't often preyed upon, and so they're not as vulnerable as the zebra. And because they're much taller, they have a much stronger kick, they have better defense, and so they probably don't need the zebra as much as what the zebra need the giraffe. But it's very interesting, all the different species of animals and how they're all able to protect themselves by being safety in numbers. If you'll find smaller antelope like a duiker, which is quite small and can easily hide, would be a bit different to all of these animals. If you're by yourself, it's much easier to hide, whereas if you're a bit taller like an impala up to the size of a zebra or buffalo, you kind of want to have more members within your herd, just for that extra bit of safety. All right, well, I'm going to carry on, go see if we can find the lions that we found this morning, but I believe there is some lions feeding on a buffalo that was killed last night.
Thanks, Jared. Well, we are still with this lioness who's really getting in there, everybody, and I started feeding on the hind quarters. It's normally the best place. Lots of meat on the rump, and there's a lot of meat to be had. You might hear the sounds of other vehicles. We are in a reserve where there are other people driving around, so do hear those cars. It's all normal. Shelley, you want to know if flies are as bad in winter as they are in summer? They're not as bad, but they are still pretty crazy. A lot of these flies will actually grow very quickly on the stomach content of that buffalo and also on the rotting meat. They follow the lions around. They find their scat in the long grass, and the life cycle is very short, very, very short. So they can lay eggs in both the stomach content as well as the meat, different species, and different flies will emerge within hours, half a day. It's a very, very quick process. But definitely in the summer months, when it's wetter, we do have an the bigger number of insects around. And thankfully right now, the flies are quite content biting the lions and whatever the buffalo has remained on the floor. So thankfully we're okay. I do apologize, I do seem to have something in my throat. So going right in there, she's got an enormously full belly. They'll probably go through bouts of feeding between the three of them. There won't be any aggression on a kill like this because there is so much food around, and we will stay here though to make sure we catch all the action.
So again, not too much in the way of changes happening. That one of the lions, the first one that we saw, and I think one of the reasons why we saw it so nicely is because it's white and it just stands out amongst this golden grass. The rest of the pride has been quite hard to find, and the one lioness that we were watching a little bit early on, we saw her stand up and move what we think was closer towards the rest of the pride, and it was definitely one of the adult females. And very interesting that she's been walking, or at least she's been looking away from these buffaloes. And if you were watching us last night, there was one lioness that actually had a limp. There we go, one's up. Who is this one? It's quite hard to tell when they're walking away from us. But that looks like one of the adults too. And so just by their behavior, they're not at all interested in these lions, or in these buffaloes at least. So we've just managed to see another lioness. She got up and moved away. And so out of the 14 potential lions that we have within this group, we've now got 5 accounted for. And the 2 lionesses, the ones who you would think would lead the hunt against these buffaloes, are actually facing directly away in the opposite direction to the buffalo. And so they probably, being so experienced, they would have definitely had a look at that big group and maybe think that it's just a little bit too much for them to handle. So it's a very, very fascinating scene, and if you do have any questions or any comments about this or any of the other sightings that we do have, please feel free to contact us on Twitter using the hashtag WildEarth. We love hearing from you, we love answering your questions, and we're always happy to do so. So with those buffaloes, they're all lying down in a very compact circle, but you never know, they might decide to get up and start moving around to feed around this waterhole. And if they do so, that might be an opportunity that these lions would pounce on. If one isolates itself from the rest of the group, as it's feeding in this long grass, maybe these lions will think that there's a better chance. But as soon as that buffalo bull gives a distress call, and it's a very guttural bellow, you'll probably find that the rest of the herd will rush to his aid and try and help him to drive the lions away. So Rosalind, we're with the buffaloes now, and we'll pan across to the lions now. I would say that they are no more than 60 meters. I said 50 a little bit earlier on, so between 50 and 60 meters to the one that we can see now. There are a few, I mean, we haven't seen the whole pride, and so there might be a few that are slightly closer, there might be a few that are slightly further away. And we don't want to go and drive around and disturb this sighting, just in case something does happen. And like I say, I mean, there's bound to be something happening, whether it be the lions chase the buffaloes chase the lions, or the lions get up and move away. But we are anchored down and we are waiting to see some sort of action for the afternoon.
This is so exciting, and I'm actually so surprised that we're seeing this now, and yet it's so much fun. So we are deep in winter now. And in fact, we've got another, before we even get rains, we've got another 3, maybe at the worst, maybe even 4 months before there's a drop of rain on this place. So we're incredibly dry now, super cold temperatures. We just gone out of severe frost down to like -6, -7 degrees 2 weeks ago. And yet, look what we've got here. These are acacias, they're called blackthorn acacias. And look what we got here, on the tips. All the new buds already popping out, eh? Look at that. They're all along here. In fact, all over this bush, there's tiny little red buds coming out. So this is super exciting. So we've got shelducks that are nesting. There's goshawks that are displaying and starting to go into breeding season. There's blackthorn acacias that are starting to push out new leaves. Soon, we're going to be having these bushes covered, absolutely covered in cream white and pink flowers. This place is going to be transformed into an absolutely magical wonderland like you have never seen before. And then for me, the thing that I really enjoy about that then is then you start getting all the insect activity. All these butterflies start coming out. Oh, Lindsay's just asked a really good question. Lindsay's asked, is Tswalu quite mineral rich? It's actually not. There's a number of key deficiencies in these sands, notably amongst them being things like copper and potassium. Those are two of your big ones, and those are actually essential for animal health and maintaining coat health, like copper and potassium for growth. So yeah, so that's a very, very good question. And then it's very high in other things like iron, and the iron is really what gives the soil this lovely rich color. And I'm still trying to find what I was hoping to find for you this afternoon, but it doesn't look like I'm getting much joy on fresh tracks, unfortunately. But let me break it to you now. So I've actually been on the trail of brand new lion cubs. Yeah, but I couldn't find them, so I showed you some leaves instead. That's a good substitute. No, but there are some tracks around here. They're just very, very old tracks, so not worth following up at this point.
I wish Dylan luck in finding those lion cubs. Always very exciting to see them so small, and the search is sometimes the best part about looking for these lions. We think there's one cub that's moving directly behind the white one there, and so that's one of the young, inexperienced ones, and this is the first one that is moving directly towards the buffaloes. And just look how its head is fixed. It's looking at the buffaloes, but it doesn't quite know what it's doing. I mean, if it was experienced, it would be hunkered down, it would be trying to use the grass as cover. But it's quite interesting that it's making its move. And none of the other lions are picking up that it's making its way towards them. Or if they have, they're not showing any interest whatsoever. And so now she is, see, she's sat just in the shade there, which will help her in terms of cover, makes it a bit harder for her to be spotted. And that tree directly behind her will just help break the outline of those ears. That might actually be a young male, come to think of it. It looks like it's got quite long chest hair. And it's just sat down. So see how it just disappears as soon as it ducks its head below the grass. And so if it was being serious, it would have crouched from the very get-go to try and get towards and get as close to the buffalo as possible. So that's exciting. There is some movement. We just need to wait out and see if there's going to be more this afternoon.
Movement, indeed. It's a bit early in the day for lions to hunt, but it hasn't been the hottest of days. Yesterday we had a relatively cool day as well, and the lions got active a little bit earlier than we've seen of late. So temperature and hunger are drivers that will encourage these animals to get up and do stuff. And if this animal didn't have that desire to eat and fill that belly and consume as much meat as possible, it would still be sleeping in the shade. But they just know they have to eat, gorge. It is the survival instinct. And it is so full, everybody, that it can't even lie down and eat right now. My head buffalo rumpy as well. The lions thoroughly enjoy it, I tell you that. Very thick hide. It's going to try and move it again. Look at that mouth. Oh, there's the leg. It is quite gruesome, everybody, so I apologize about these scenes, but this is nature at its finest. The buffalo was killed by the lions for food. None of it will be wasted. They will eat absolutely everything. Insects will dispatch the organic material deposited by the rumen in the stomach. The blood will all go into the soil. Nutrient hotspot will develop right here where this has happened. And it is a circle of life. From the soil to the grass, to the animal, to the predator, and back once again. So everybody, we do hope you've enjoyed another afternoon with us from our various locations. We've thoroughly enjoyed bringing you some wonderful, if not sometimes a little bit disturbing scenes. Our three Unkuhumas, you've met the pride before, and here are the three lioness. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, good day and goodbye. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day, as we are too here, coming to you live from Djuma Private Nature Reserve in the Sabi Sands. My name is Steve, joined by Craig, and as always, we'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments, hashtag Wild Earth, YouTube chat stream, or Twitch. We're with some very fat and sleepy lions. Not fat in that they are overweight, everybody, but fat in that they've got very full bellies. These three Unkuhuma lionesses have really shown their mettle today. And excuse me, I do have something lodged in my throat that I have not been able to dislodge. Maybe it is the overwhelming smell of lion poo in the air that's just giving me a little bit of a... Oh, there we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I thought it was going to stand up. One more yawn, and it will stand up shortly afterwards and go and compete with its sister over there for some food. Feels like it's missing out. Any of you get FOMO? It's a newly described word in the dictionary. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. Okay, everybody. Well, we've got lions who are doing not too much apart from a bit of feeding, and Eric is with some cats, and let's see what they're getting up to.
I don't think our lions are doing much more than Steve's lions at the moment. But a few of the sub-adults are expressing a little bit more interest than when we started. And so that's the one that we actually watched getting closer and creeping forward. And then there's a couple of them that are just picking up their heads every now and again and looking to see if maybe any of the other lions are starting to make a move. There are a couple of buffaloes that are separating and they're moving away from that main clump, but it's happening very, very slowly. I'm sure these buffaloes would probably realize that there's the potential of the lions not moving too far off, and so I'm sure they'll be very cautious, wandering into the direction where they won't be able to use their senses to their advantage. So you might find, the wind has completely died down all of a sudden, but the majority of the wind has been blowing from the buffaloes onto the lions. So you might find that those buffaloes will tend to walk the opposite direction towards where we are going now, just so they'll be able to smell and hear what's going on ahead of them, so they don't get surprised by something like a big pride of lions. So Laura, yes, certain species have got different senses that they are their best, I guess. Buffaloes have got very, very good senses all round. So their hearing is very, very good. Their sense of smell is also incredible, and they can spot things really, really well. And so they'll use a combination of their eyesight, their hearing, and their smell. With that big group of buffaloes being all old males, you might find that a few of their senses are starting to dull, and that's one of the reasons why they might group into a large group like this. So, if one's eyesight is starting to fade, there might be a few buffaloes that have got slightly stronger eyesight, and it will just help them spot these lions in a bigger group. Then it's much easier if they're in a group like this than if they're by themselves. Whereas these lions, they'll also use a combination of their senses, but their eyesight is probably their most important. They will smell and they'll also hear. And so they'll also need to consider the wind when they're hunting. And that's why I'm quite surprised they're not showing too much interest. So whilst we wait and see if these lions decide to try and take this opportunity to go and hunt one of these buffaloes, there's a different cat species that's at Phinda, and let's go and see what that is.
I'm not so sure, Eric, about being out and about. I think we've also got some lazy lions like you do back home, which is very typical for this hour of the day. It's almost like lazy lion hour. At the time of day when it's not cool enough yet to really get up and hunt and get moving yet. And it's not too hot, so they don't have to lie in the shade. That being said, there is a couple of them in the shade and a couple of them with their legs in the air to hopefully try and cool down as the breeze blows over their body. So we with a pride of lions at the moment, where you can see that there's one male and next to him a female. This morning this male was trying to mate with this female. She wasn't having any of it, but judging by their body language at the moment, maybe she has succumbed to his beauty, or she's just given up trying to tell him off and just letting him lie up close to her. I guess we'll see if they do get up and start to move. And then behind these two lions, we've got 5 sub-adults, or not, probably closer, between sub-adults and juveniles. They're just over a year old now, and all 5 of these are males. So this female is the mother of a couple of those 5 males, and it is a little bit unusual that she should be mating at this stage. So either it is a bit of a phantom estrus, so she's released some pheromones and this male thinks that she's in estrus when she isn't, or maybe for whatever reason she has started to go into estrus at a much sooner stage than what she should. Normally when her cubs would be around close to about 2 years, you would expect her to go into estrus again. So this is just under a year from that. So it'd be interesting to see. This morning we did hear them mating. So they definitely mated once. Oh, see that? Let's see what happens. I'm going to keep quiet. Oh, they're mating. Oh, amazing. A very peaceful dismount. Sometimes it can be far more aggressive than that, but how fantastic is that? I was not expecting that. This morning we sat with them for about an hour, maybe just over that, and the male was trying and trying and trying, and she wouldn't let him mate. We did hear them in the bushes mate at least, well, once, but maybe we weren't sure if it was a proper mate or what, but this most certainly was a full-blown mate, which is fantastic news and also very interesting news. That being said, although they have mated now, doesn't mean she's going to fall pregnant. For one, lions do mate very often and for quite a long time, up to about 3 or 4 days, and that is because of the well, there's many reasons for it, but one of them being the lower sperm count that the male has. So by mating frequently, hopefully he'll be able to fertilize the female. Let's see if he gets up and tries to follow again. Generally, he doesn't let the female too far out of his sight. So Nicola, you're asking, how can you tell when an animal is pregnant or just full? And so one of the ways you'll tell is kind of where, well, for different species, it is a little bit different. But with lions at least, and lions and leopards, when the mother is pregnant, you will start to see a bit of a milk sac around the teats, and the teats will start to swell up. Whereas when a lion is full because they've just eaten far too much, they tend to have a very full, rounded belly. Also, what would happen is the area where you'll start to see the female being pregnant does tend to be set a little bit further back. Whereas when they've got a very full belly from eating too much, that's just that perfect size round belly. Where a pregnant female doesn't have that perfect little round shape to it. So who knows? Maybe in about 110 days, plus minus the gestation period of a lioness, this female could give birth. Now, you don't notice that they're pregnant until they're about 2 months pregnant, give or take. So it will still be a while until we know if this female is pregnant, but I don't expect her to be pregnant. Like I said, these cubs are still quite young. Maybe he's just trying his luck. It would be a little bit unusual for a female like this to go into phantom estrus to this male because there's no real need for that. Often when lionesses go into phantom estrus, it is for other particular reasons. So they're trying to fool the male to think that they're in estrus so they can mate with them. And they'll often do that if it is a new male that's come into the area and she's worried about that male killing her cubs, or if she's already pregnant, trying to make that male think that the cubs are his.
We have a giraffe just here. Just trying not to scare her. It's a female. There we go. She's a little bit skittish. I always see her here in this part of Chitwa. She doesn't seem to like vehicles too much. My name is Lauren. I do have Theo on camera. We're still on Chitwa because Tswalu was found here this morning. So we were actually trying to look for Tswalu, but apparently the hyena stole her kill. So I think her and her cubs thought, we're out of here. We're going to leave. I'm just going to try and reposition for this giraffe. It's lovely to see a female, and from a distance, the more time you spend with giraffes, the more you can tell the sex from very, very far away, without even looking for the genitals. Females are much smaller, slender, more petite, shall we say, than the males. What's happened to your tail, lady? Half of it is missing. I would love to know what happened to your tail. You see that? The end part's missing. I wonder if it got damaged when she was a calf, or possibly lions. Lions will attack a giraffe, absolutely. If they're cooperating together in a pride, they will take down a giraffe. They can risk extensive injury, but they'll try for sure. I think she's wandering off. Now, I had the Talamatis this morning, as many of you may know, so we're going to quickly race up north, check if they're still around, but they were heading deeper into Djuma, and then head back to the hyena den. So I've got lots and lots of plans for this afternoon. We better get moving. I don't actually know what it was that Tswalu had killed or what hyena stole it, but she's not around anymore, which is rather sad. So we're going to head back into Djuma. It's getting a little bit chilly, but we're going to send you guys back across to Ngala with their lazy Ngala.
So not much change with the lions, but the exciting thing is that buffalo has wandered away from the main group, and it's been sitting like that for a while, and it hasn't stopped staring in the direction of the lions. And there's a couple of them, of the lions, that have got their heads up and are looking at the buffalo, so there's this standoff that's happening, but it doesn't seem like the buffalo is too concerned at all yet, and I'm sure it's just making sure that the lions aren't trying to make any advances. But I mean, it's walked a few meters forward, so it might be about 35-40 meters away from the front line that approached when we were watching a little bit earlier, and then the rest of the herd is still about 10 meters behind that, so it is slightly isolated. But the advantage that this buffalo has is that it's facing directly towards the lions, so if any of these lions get up and move, with buffaloes having such good eyesight, they'll easily be able to spot the movement of the lions. It's just so crazy that they both are here. I mean, these buffaloes definitely chased the lions off a little bit earlier. I would have suspected that these buffaloes would have tried to force them away further to try and get the threat further and further away. I mean, lions at close range like this is still a threat to these buffaloes. But again, not too much movement from the adults. It's mostly the sub-adults that are picking their heads up every now and again. And interestingly, the two of the oldest lionesses have actually got their heads up and they're facing directly away from the buffalo. So they could be looking into the distant hills, or maybe looking for an easier prey species. With this water being pretty much the only water source around this area, there's potential of zebras moving through this area, of wildebeest. There's always impala around, and so although they don't yield as much meat, it's a lot easier to go after. So maybe they're just going to cut their losses, and instead of expending too much injury and worrying and risking getting injured, it might be worth just going after something slightly smaller. Sharon, it's amazing how we get these type of days. I mean, we've got lions here at Ngala, at Djuma, and at Pinda. And although we're seeing the same species, the cool thing is that each pride has got their own unique stories and they'll be behaving slightly differently. And it's really nice that there's a carcass at Djuma and we've got the potential of hunting. So we might be able to do complete the whole circle and the story of lions hunting, and we might be able to see how it looks like. And even if they fail, we at least have got the end result of lions feeding on the buffalo back at Djuma. And then at Pinda, I mean, the Pinda lions always seem to be doing something cool, whether it be chasing each other or climbing up trees or hunting warthogs. So there's definitely some very cool potential for some action to happen today. And that's why we've just decided to stay put and just wait to see what happens. I think it's one of the most amazing sightings, and that buffalo's taken a step forward. It looked like it was starting to move a little bit more closer, but it's actually just stopped again. I think one of the most exciting sightings that we get to see with lions is the battle between these buffaloes and lions. And so, like I say, we just need to give it some time, just wait it out, and hopefully we'll get rewarded with our patience.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So Eric, patience does most certainly pay off, and hopefully our patience over here is going to pay off. At the moment we've got a bunch of very sleepy lions, but fortunately with lions that are mating, you don't have to be patient for very long. On average, if you had to look at the average time that they would mate, or period between mating, would be about 20 minutes. In the heat of the day, that would be slightly less, and in the cooler hours of the day, or days when time of day when they're more active, that would be slightly more frequent than 20 minutes. We're sitting at about 10 minutes now, so let's hope in the next 5-10 minutes or so we might see these two mating again, because it is an incredible experience to witness lions mating, as most of you had heard earlier. Just the growling that occurs while they mate. Sometimes there will be a bit of fighting afterwards as the male dismounts from the female, and that can sometimes get very vicious. And we've got the 5 youngsters in the back who would be more active than normal adult lions, and so hopefully they'll be up and about and start to play very soon. Eric was also discussing about these lions being tree climbing lions, and particularly these 5 males absolutely love to climb trees. Unfortunately, exactly where we are, there's no tree for them to climb, but it's about a 2-minute walk for them to get to the waterhole that we're at this morning, and there's an absolutely lovely marula tree for them over there. So very typical, particularly with males. You can see how tightly bonded these males are. They're all pretty much lying right on top of each other. Something you would expect from animals if it was cold, and it isn't a cool day at all today. It's actually pretty warm, and so the reason why they're just lying so close to each other is just the strong bond that they have. And this is a particular strong bond that you will find with males, because these 5 males, once they get kicked out of this pride, which will probably be in about a year's time or so, if this female is an estrus, and if she is going to have cubs, they might actually even kick these youngsters out earlier than that. And then these 5 males, typically, not all the time, but typically will then spend the rest of their lives together. There is a chance that they may split. We do see that from time to time. But for them to survive, they will want to stick together. The more of them together, the easier it is to hunt, the easier it is to take over pride when they're about 5 years or so, and easier it is for them to be able to hold a pride for a certain amount of time. Colin, this pride does not have a long history with Pinda. Sorry, Colin, I'll get back to you now. Just follow the 2-track that heads south from the waterhole. We're on the other side of the drainage line. So, Colin, this particular pride, so the 3 females that are part of this pride, although we've only got 1 here, there is 3 of them in total. They do actually come from another game reserve, and they were introduced to Phinda around 4 years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago. And the 2 dominant males of this pride, the 2 Bayala males, they were introduced here just around 2 years ago. And it's not normal that we introduce females into the area. It's often seen with males. So over time we have extended the Phinda property, and with us extending Phinda and dropping fences with other reserves that didn't have line, we then ended up having a big chunk of our reserve that didn't have lines, so we were able to bring in some new lines and some new genes. We do tend to do it a little bit more with males. We want to bring in males from all over the area, just to improve the genes of the lions in this area. So unlike the North Pride and the South Pride, who have been around for many, many years, as almost their genes could probably come back to when Phinda started up around 30 years ago. These lions only about 3 years or so. But they've established nicely, and they've got an awesome area to set up a territory that has lots of water holes and an abundance of game. And there's so much prey species for them to be able to hunt in this area that they don't really ever venture further north into the other territories of the other lions, which is what could have happened if there wasn't enough for them to feed on. And that would have been devastating for the lions, because prides fighting amongst each other, then you could end up having one pride being completely killed. But just to my north, we've got a big mountain that sort of separates the south to the central and north part of the reserve. And so this pride tends to keep to the south of the mountain, and then the other 2 prides keep to the north, and the North Pride in particular much further north. Alright, so he's just lifted his head. He's yawning now, which is often an indicator that means he's going to get up and do something. He's busy grooming, another indicator. So he may get up and maybe mate again. Alright, we're going to stick around here for a bit longer. Hopefully they get a little bit active. And I believe Dylan at Tswalu is busy tracking.
So here, our colleagues are actually having some success with lions. Myself, on the other hand, not so much. But it's fun anyway. So the lion tracks that we got here, it's members of one of our prides. This is called the Southern Pride. These tracks are really, really good. They're from this morning. They actually come up here, and then just at the scraggly little tree on the edge of the road on the left-hand side, they turn in over there. There's one that goes in here as well. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get something on these cats. The only thing is that's niggling me here. I really want to find these tiny little cubs for you, and that's going to be a little bit more challenging. It seems that they brought the cubs from the west. They were about 4 kilometers away from here last week, and the tracks now cross over going into this block. Quite wind-blown, those cub tracks, so they're not so fresh, but they haven't come out of this block to the right-hand side of here. So, anyway, we are on this. We are on this. We will find these cats for you at some point. Yeah, these are African wildcat tracks. I'm always surprised just how big African wildcat tracks are. No, these are wild African cats. And in fact, let me put my hand next to one as an example. There you go. So you can see the track next to it is the left-hand track of a lioness, left-hand front track of a lioness, and you can compare it to the size of my track. A male lion's track is actually considerably larger than that. Cool. This is good. This is good. But anyway, so the whole thing is these cubs will keep on hiding from you. So what we'll do is don't worry about the cubs too much for now. You actually try to find the lionesses, because they will go hunting, which is probably exactly what they've done now. But then eventually they'll loop back to where the cubs are, and that's when we are in for a chance. And it's just good being outside. Yeah, and I wish you all there. Yep, you are here. I'm also super excited. Those of you who are excited, I get excited about anything out here.
We love it. So this buffalo is maybe less than 10 meters away from one of the sub-adults, and that was the one that we watched get up and move. We haven't seen it yet. I'm assuming it's still lying down in that bush, but that buffalo might not know that it's there, because I mean most of the movement of the pride has been another 15 meters behind that, and so maybe he's been focusing on where the rest of the pride are and hasn't really noticed that one cub. It's now walking away. You might see the cub's head pick up. I think I can just see the top of its ears as it's watching the buffalo go away. He probably got into the state where he just got into a position where he had absolutely no idea what to do, and probably the best thing was just to use his camouflage in this long grass and just head down, try not to let the buffalo see him, because he would have been chased. He's at that age where he might be wanting to join the hunts, but still way too inexperienced and way too small to attempt a buffalo hunt by himself. But even, I mean, this buffalo knows that there's lions here. He came to investigate them, and maybe he just knows by looking at their behavior that they're not too interested, so he's not too concerned about them. Very interesting. And most of the time it's buffaloes freak out, panic, and they stampede towards the pride, and the pride tries to bounce back. So it's a lot more dynamic than what it is now. And at the moment, the only one that we can see nicely is this one that's sleeping on his back with his legs up. So he doesn't even know that the buffalo exist. I'm sure he does, but he's not too concerned about them. The lions, I guess, will specialize to a certain degree. So some prides might hunt certain animals more regularly than others, but they won't only go for that specific species. So if a pride of lions is known for hunting buffaloes, they're not only going to hunt buffalo. They will take any opportunity that presents itself. So, I mean, this pride of lions, if we could say, I mean, we've seen them on buffaloes, we've seen them on zebras, on lots of wildebeest, and I suppose it also just depends on the prey species that are available in the area that they move around in. And so, I mean, this area, there's an abundance of general game species, so we've seen them on impalas, we've seen them on warthogs, we've seen them on large giraffes. And so, I mean, sometimes to a certain extent a pride will specialize, but I don't necessarily think they've got a preference. You might think that a bigger pride of lions like this need to feed more mouths, so going after something bigger is more beneficial than going after something smaller where they all have to fight for the food. So, I mean, this pride of lions, we've seen killing impalas before, but I mean, an impala will feed maybe 3 or 4 lions, where a big buffalo will feed the whole pride, not only for the day, but for sometimes 3 or 4 days at a time. It's quite interesting now because the majority of that herd seem to be up and moving towards the water. Yeah, Susan, it is really beautiful. And although we're not really seeing too much action, you know, the suspense is drawing us in. So we kind of on the edge of our seats the whole time, wanting to know what's going to happen next. And I've just noticed that the rest of the group of buffalo bulls is moving towards the water's edge. So moving away from this pride of lions. And there's just one who's now got 30 or 40 meters between him and the rest of the group. So you would almost think that if this was an opportunity that these lions thought was good enough, you might have seen the females jump into action to go after this buffalo. But because they're all flat, I mean, not one of the adult females has picked up her head in the last while. And so I doubt they're going to be putting too much effort into hunting these buffaloes this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. I believe that today it's a wonderful day. We are at Djuma Private Game Reserve. I'm just joining the show now. As my name is Raymond. My cameraman right over here, Grigory. Okay. We are still on right. Yes. So we have got some big herd of impala. I believe that sighting of elephant and as well as some buffaloes and lions. It's a good sighting because today, this morning, we managed to see the lions. What are they doing for the buffalo? They need to feed for themselves right over here. So that's a nice sighting for impala as well as the sun. Now they are getting ready to come on an open area where they're going to have a nap for a little bit until tomorrow. So they are also together with some wild beasts, but we can't manage to see the wild beast. Sometimes they will be joined by the impalas, by the zebras as well, as a part of protection. You can see how plenty those impalas. Their eyes are plenty. As they can't protect themselves by fighting back, it's only their eyes that are more powerful, more than any other power. As long as one managed to see something, starting to shout, said, ah, ah, bah, bah, bah. So all of them, they will starting to activate for themselves to see where the predator comes from. Because it will show you exactly where he saw something that they doubt, evenly if the wind waving or anything, they must make sure that all of them, they try to look over there, what is in there or what is coming. It is danger or not. Even sometimes you can see them, you can hear them barking on a hyena, but immediately when they realize that, oh, it's a hyena, they're starting to be calm. Yes, Susan. The impala's life, it is more credible, and the impalas as well. There are plenty and common more than the other animals. And while all the predator, they can manage to kill an impala. We like to try to check on a treehouse dam if we might be lucky to find some elephant or something exciting.
I have just arrived to Buffelshoek Dam. Theo was telling me something. You see a lion? He sees a lion, I do not. Now, it's been a bit of a hairy ride. Can you get them from here? Because I can't see them. My brakes have broken. Wendy does not have any brakes. So poor Theo. Yeah, it's been a bumpy ride with Lauren not being able to stop when she's supposed to. Okay, I think Buffelshoek Dam was a good shout. I don't see any lions though. It's actually cooled down enough that I anticipated the lions might come for a drink, and this is why I've ended up here. Can you see them? Do you want me to go back? Yeah. Okay, we're going to reverse as slowly as I can because I'm not able to stop this car. Rather hilarious. Bit of a roller coaster ride. Buffelshoek Dam is still very, very full. Okay, let me try and see if I can stop this car. There we go. Now, you've came to us just as we were searching for the lions, so bear with us. Theo thinks he can see them. I am afraid cannot. Do you think you were tricked by a log, Theo?
No, I really...
It was a lion. Okay. Happens to me all the time. Okay, let's try and go back some more. This is exactly where I anticipated the Talamati Pride would come. They were not too far from here. Okay, once again, let me see if I can stop this car. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to do my very best with no brakes to try and find the lions here. And as I do that, we're going to send you across to Jared with his lions.
Lauren, I don't envy you at all right now. Once I have to leave this area, I've got quite a steep drainage line to get through, and if I had no brakes, I think it would be quite an interesting experience. But fortunately right now I don't need the use of brakes because we have some very, very lazy lions. That being said, this male is thinking about maybe mating again, so we, in the time you've been gone, pretty much exactly smack bang on 20 minutes, they did mate again, and we're at about 15 minutes again. So let's hope in the next 5 minutes, or let's hope in the next 30 seconds, he sits up and moves over to that female to mate. I always find it very fascinating, having spent so much time in the Sabi Sands watching leopards mating all the time, and in the Sabi Sands, and while I've been here, I've also been fortunate enough to see lions mate on quite a few occasions, and just the difference in mating. So if this male, or if these lions are to mate, with lions it's very typical that the male gets up and goes over to the female, or at least the female moves, the male follows her around, and the moment she gives him opportunity, he will mate. Whereas with leopard, it's actually the complete opposite. The female is the one who's far more keen to mate. She'll get up, she'll flirt with the male, flick her tail from side to side, plant herself down in front of him. Whereas with lions, and I think hopefully what's going to happen now, the male generally tends to decide when it's time to mate. There we go, we've got a yawn. He might just groom his paws just a little bit, and then hopefully stand up and mate again. And then the perfect position to mate, because if he gets up and mounts her from behind, they'll be facing us, which will allow us to see her snarling while they're mating, and him biting down on her neck, and we can see those beautiful long teeth, which we can actually see right now while he yawns. And while looking at those teeth, we'll be able to tell that he is a younger male. Have a look while he yawns. The teeth are still quite white, still very sharp, so we know that he's in his prime. In the next 2 or 3 years, those teeth are going to start to become more yellow, more blunt at the edges, and that's generally around the time when the males will get kicked out and be replaced by new males. But I think that this male and his brother still have many, many years to be the dominant males of the south of Ambion Phinda Private Game Reserve. So he's just busy looking. Come on, buddy, don't let me down. He might yawn one more time, I think, and then he's going to get up. Let's see. Kerry, it is funny how even yawn with animals can be contagious. We all talk about yawns with humans being contagious. I have yawned before without even knowing it after a lion yawned, and we just had Marcel behind the camera yawn now as well. So this yawn is most certainly contagious. Alright, I think Lauren has found something exciting, and she's found some hunting lions.
Theo was right, we've got the lioness. I didn't see it. Buffalo everywhere. We are surrounded by a huge herd of buffalo. We're just going to try and show you. They don't know she's here. They've got youngsters. She knows they're there. This is the one-eyed lioness. She's in stock mode. She's keeping down low. I don't know where the rest of the pride are. I can only see one lioness right now. I imagine she's going to gather the troops. We are surrounded by buffalo. They're everywhere. The Talamatis are still here. You see, this is the one with that's blind in her right eye. the shoulders are hunched just like a leopard. She doesn't go quite far down as a leopard does, but she knows the buffalo are there. It's a big herd. I think she's going to call the others. Now I'm just going to have to call this in, I'm afraid, because there's vehicles around.
Sightings around Fish Rock, Nyari, Western Globe, and other things as well. Okay, copy.
Okay, I will try my best when they stop talking. Okay, I didn't see where she went. She's went into the drainage. But I think potentially very soon we could have a hunt on our hands. See, there's the youngsters. There's young buffalo. It's a large breeding herd that have came down from Buffelshoek. Well done, Theo, for spotting her. Okay, everyone is still talking. Hear that? We're surrounded by the sounds of the buffalo. I don't think they are aware. The lionesses are there. I think I could better position myself here. I've just lost sight of the lioness. I have a funny feeling the Talamatis are going to go for these buffalo. Okay, let's try and relocate our lioness. How exciting. She went down this way. If she's gone into the drainage, we won't be able to go, but at least if we know where she is, I imagine she'll be watching these buffalo very intently. We've got the Nkuhuma females down south on the southern boundary with buffalo, and we could have another one on our northern cut line. She went down there somewhere. I'm driving into a tree. I'm not having a very good day today, am I? Yes, many of you are saying the buffalo are not having a great day today. That is true, yes. It's not the day for buffalo. But of course, as apex predators, the lions do need to control the buffalo population. So we're just going to give you one last look at how large this buffalo herd really is. And I am going to do my best to relocate the lions. So for now, over to Eric.
So things have petered out and there's not too much going on, and so the buffaloes have decided to get up and move away, and they walk directly away from the lions, so into the wind, and they're probably just going to try and get away from the area for a little while. And so we had the opportunity to reposition, and now at least we can see a few of the lions sleeping, and we've got a much better view of what looks like 5 or 6 of the individuals within this pride. And just to the right of that rock, through the trees, through the gap, is that young male, who I actually didn't know was here, but it's good to know that he's still hanging on to this pride with all that he has. And you just see that very white that we can see is his chin, and then the mane directly below it. So he's lying almost with his head on the rock to the left of him. And then the rest of the lions, they've all gotten up, and each one of them has gone to the loo. But they've all just gone and lain flat on their sides. And if we look at this one closest to us, that one over there, I think. Yeah, there's one with that one over there. If you look at it, I mean, it's got a really full belly, and it's the first proper view that we've had of the lion's whole body. And because of that full belly, they must have fed sometime last night. There's one of the white lions is on his way here, and the lighting is beautiful on its face. This is the young female. And if we zoom into her chin, and the side of her face looks like there's a bit of red tinge. So, I mean, it definitely wasn't a buffalo that they caught, but they caught something big enough to sustain them and fill their stomachs up for a while. And so no wonder they're not really interested at all in those buffaloes. So that answers our question as to why these buffaloes weren't, or why these lions weren't very interested in these buffaloes. It was interesting, even though lions are opportunistic, they're smart enough not to tangle with the buffalo if they don't need to.
I did believe that you did enjoy for the lions that side of Eric. They are hunting. We are on a big herd of elephant. It's a breeding herd. Some are on our side. You can see this bull show you that I'm a boy. I'm brave enough. I'm also coming to you. Okay. So there are also wonderful sighting of plenty lion together with some babies. It's lots of babies right around here. And as well as those are teenagers. Can you believe that? Trying to feed himself as its trunk. It is a hand as well where it can manage to smell and to take food straight to the mouth. So guys, that sound you hear, it's another vehicle and a sighting that makes it a little bit scary for this elephant. So let's reposition ourselves that maybe you can see a lot together with those little bit babies. Yes, that's a good question, Anna. They can be up more than 50 if it's a big herd, but at this moment, because they do not that much for this one, it's less than 40. Less than 40, because I saw another one there and there and there and there. So they are also pretty. So, but they can manage to reach up to 50, the biggest herd which I ever saw. I don't know, maybe they can be more than 50 to 60, but which I did, so it was 50. Thanks, Anna. You can see the head, if you look at directly on its head, it's a way I can tell you the difference between the male and the female. Let's have a moment of silence in order to hear very well. Yes, if you look a little bit in front, you can see as well as those babies follow each other as a brother and sisters. Look at that young one feeding himself. He haven't received any task yet, but still under pressure. Okay, we're gonna leave this elephant as they are getting to the bush, trying to get something that's so interesting.
We found her. I think this is the same lioness. She's watching the buffalo so intently. She's using the drainage line as a sort of coverage. I can't see the other lionesses. I don't know where they are. She needs them. In order to execute this hunt, she needs the others. Now, I imagine they won't be too far. They're trying to stay, she's trying to stay quiet. She's trying to stay hidden in the snow. Hunting is all about precision. Got to execute exactly right in order to avoid injury and to be successful. So she's watching them, and I think if she can relocate the other females, they're going to hunt. There's buffalo everywhere. They've obviously came down to Buffalo Dam to drink, and the buffalo have walked into them, completely oblivious that their main predator is right there. They're noisy. We were talking about animal communication this morning. The buffalo are noisy. They're smelly. The lions will know they're there long before, and they can keep their distance. They don't have to be really, really close to the buffalo in order to know exactly where they are. It'd be fantastic if they take down a buffalo in Djuma. Talamatis regularly make kills. They're a very successful pride up in Buffelshoek, but this would be great if they had a kill on Djuma.
Is there any station with the 3 Mafazi and Gala?
Sorry about that. Double H, yes, is very ambitious for one lioness. Unless she could spot a youngster, a calf on its own, it's very ambitious. She needs the others, and I believe they're here. I believe we just caught the sort of tail end of them having a drink at Buffelshoek Dam, and they just need to coordinate. They need to cooperate, get together, and take down a buffalo. But this lioness is very interested. Look at that. She's hungry too. I mentioned this morning that none of them had full bellies. They maybe snacked throughout the night like I did on chocolate last night, but none of them had full bellies. This is really tense. There's buffalo everywhere. Come on, girl, what you gonna do? One thing that I always appreciate from animals is patience. Even with leopards, it's a large amount of patience. Stuck in bed. I hope you're out of bed, because it is exciting. But you're right. She can't do it on her own. I think this is the oldest lioness of the Talamati pride. I don't know why she keeps walking in the opposite direction from the buffalo. I think she feels that maybe the rest of her gal pals are that way. Okay, she's still watching them. I'm going to keep a very close eye on this lioness, and if anything exciting happens, you'll be right back with us.
That is rather exciting, and it seems like there's a little bit more action in terms of a potential hunt than what we had this afternoon. And it just falls into what I was saying a little bit earlier, how there might be quite a few different lines on the different reserves out this afternoon, but they're all behaving slightly differently. And I mean, this pride had a prime opportunity to hunt a buffalo bull who was slightly isolated from the group, and because they're nice and full, they decided not to. We have, however, managed to try and get a decent count, and we're not sure if we've got everyone, but we think that it's 4 adult females, the 8 cubs, and at least the young male. I'm not too sure that the dominant males are here. So the young female with her 2 cubs doesn't seem to be around. We think that she could still be in the spot that we left them yesterday. And so we are thinking that potentially heading down into that area. It's not too far. I mean, we could get there within the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. So that might be our plan for the next while. We just decided to give these lions the benefit of the doubt and see if they showed any sign of activity. We are around a waterhole. There's the chance of other animals coming down to drink. And you never know, if they might change their tone if a herd of zebra wandered through this area rather than that buffalo herd that was here earlier. However, not very many other predators will hunt buffaloes. I remember this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. On Ngala, there was a pack of wild dogs that hunted a young buffalo, which was almost unheard of. It was filmed by one of our head guides, and I mean, apart from that, probably, I guess, hyena might, if there's an injured one who's very isolated. But you have to remember, it's an incredibly difficult animal to hunt. I mean, a big male can weigh 800 kilograms. Lions, being the biggest predators that we have in Africa, are only weigh between 150 to 200 kilograms. But they've got the advantage of working together. And so, I mean, if hyenas had large numbers and there was an injured and sick and old enough buffalo, or a young buffalo that was isolated perhaps, then maybe. But otherwise, it's predominantly lions that are the main predators of buffaloes. It's not to say that it can't happen. I mean, I'm sure an opportunistic big male leopard, if there's a stranded calf who's falling behind the herd, I mean, he might try and take that as an opportunity. But I think what makes buffaloes so effective is their ability to work together if they're confronted by a threat. And so they'll group together. The biggest, strongest males are the ones that are the first line of defense usually, and they'll be the ones who are almost responsible for trying to drive the predators away, whilst the other females and the slightly younger males just get the youngsters and group them right into a very, very close-knit circle. Pretty similar to what we were actually seeing with the herd of buffaloes that we were watching at the start of show this afternoon. So we have decided, like I said, we're going to give them another 5 minutes or so. If there's no sign of movement, then I think we might end up going back towards the river and see if we can see any sign of that young female with her 2 cubs.
Yes, we're still together with this elephant. As I said, it's a little bit big breeding herd. They are together, and some did come out as well, crossing through in front of us, some greeting. Big herd together with the babies, as I was talking about the babies, to identify the male and the female. If you look those 2 babies, the head for the male one is sort of oval, and that other one is a triangle. I've got a T on top. And look, the young one, that shows us it's quite different through to that other one. Even the mom can see I've got a triangle head, but the male one have got a oval, look like a sort of an egg shape. So let her reposition in order to see so maybe you get a nice sighting. Yes. Before they disappear. Okay, we'll reposition. We'll stay here. Send you guys to the line on hunt.
She's right next to the car, so I'm just gonna stay really quiet for now. She's huge. Do you see how she's weaving through the thicket here? She's gonna use our car. This is amazing. She's heading straight in the direction of the buffalo. Look, the buffalo's right in front. You see the buffalo crossing there? Look at her watching. Where's the rest of the pride? She's walking straight towards him. Buffalo actually have really keen senses, believe it or not. They have a good sense of smell, good ears, good eyes. She still blends in very well in the winter foliage, the winter vegetation. She wants dinner, just like I do. Winter always makes me hungry. Okay. Now I'm going to have to let this lioness get much further ahead of me because, well, I don't have brakes. So we'll wait till she makes a decision and then we'll follow. We need to give her space. Lionesses can make a soft contact call. Penelope, you're saying, wow, this is tense. Yes. The Talamatis are famous for taking down buffalo regularly. Okay, where's she going? You see how she's keeping her movement to a minimum? Okay, now we can go because it's really easy to lose a lioness in the winter vegetation. She's trying to hide behind the vegetation. You see that? Okay, we're going to go up, but we're not going to block her way. She needs to be able to see the buffalo clearly. Okay, I'm going to need to give this some oomph. This is exactly where we had them this morning. I think they've slept here all day. Anna Marie, I hear you. Come on, girl. Anna Marie hopes you get some dinner. Me too. Bad news, everyone. For some reason, this lioness is walking right towards Buffalo's cut line in the opposite direction from the buffalo. And if she crosses this main road ahead of us, we can't follow. That's Buffalo's Hook right in front of us. I don't think she knows where the rest of the pride are. Okay, we're going to pull up here so we don't block her view of the buffalo. And she moves. And I now have a tree in front of me. Let's try that again. No, why is she gone into Buffalo's Hook? Okay, this is going to be the last views we have of her. I do not know why she's crossed that cut line. You're just going to be able to see a tail there. Oh no, you can see all of her. Well, I have to say, everyone, I'm surprised. I think it's because she's alone. I don't know where the rest of the females are. And I don't think she does either. but she knows where the buffalo are. The sun is slowly starting to go down, so it might be that she's able to regroup and go after the buffalo. They're not moving quickly. But off she goes into Buffelshoek. Martha, I know. Oh no. This is a problem with the Talamasis. They don't push into Djuma too far yet. Always on this northern cut line, which means it's so easy to lose them. But I think we're going to see them more and more on Djuma, that's for sure. Okay, I think I'm going to go back now and see if we can see the buffalo and any more lionesses. Oh, keep forgetting when I can't brake. Downhill's not going to be a good idea. Are you holding on, Theo? Poor Wendy. Okay, I think the buffalo have all gone into the thicket, but I'm just going to check this area one more time for the rest of the pride, and as I do that, we're going to send you across to Mike at Pridelands to say good afternoon.
Yes, hi everyone. We are sitting here with a lovely herd of impala just moving in this golden afternoon light. It's actually turned out to be an absolutely awesome afternoon. It started off very cold and windy, got nice and lovely and bright. It's been an absolutely fabulous afternoon out here in the bush. We've enjoyed driving around looking for all the wonderful things that Pridelands has to offer. Hello. Yes, you haven't seen me yet. I'm Michael Anderson. Behind the camera is Seb. You all know Seb. Welcome back, Seb. As we have been driving around, I'll show you just quickly on the map. So we have been starting out there, right near Ndlovu Dam. That's where our camp is. And we drove out, did a whole long loop on Bateleur Road past the hyena den. No luck there. The hyenas were not active. Hit the boundary, crossed down here. And now we're all the way down towards Leopard Dam. We're actually just past this four-ways here, so we're watching these impalas in these Tambuti Pan areas. We're going to head to Leopard Dam to see if there's anything interesting happening there before maybe going past these rocky areas of the craters and heading back all the way towards Ndlovu Dam, where we think that lioness might still be active around there this evening. We haven't found her today, so we wonder what she's up to. But yes, a wonderful afternoon. Looking forward to seeing what else is around on this nice winter's day. I'm going to just keep us moving a little bit, just because it is such a wonderful afternoon. And you can get to see that gorgeous sun just coming down on the horizon. It really is a lovely winter's afternoon. Enjoying taking you guys out here. It's been quiet for us, which is why you haven't really seen us too much. But Tswalu is having a wonderful afternoon, so we're going to send you over there whilst we head towards Leopard Dam.
So 2 days ago we looked briefly one afternoon at the nests of wattled starlings, but there were no birds around, no wattled starlings. This afternoon we are being spoilt with wattled starlings. They're all out of breeding plumage, but that's them sitting in the tree there. And there are lots. That is just one tree of many around here with starlings in them. And what they're doing now is they're actually coming down to start drinking water this time of day, and then they'll move off to go roost for the night. And the name comes from the wattled part of it. The males get this beautiful yellow and black wattle that hangs down the side on either side of the face during the breeding season, and the females don't have that, but they're very, very, very distinctive birds in breeding season. So peaceful out here. Not much luck on those lions, I'm afraid. Well, actually luck on the lions, but they just disappeared into this immense block. And we circled the whole area. It took us 40 minutes or whatever it was. There's no tracks coming out. But I can go look for them for you if you want. Then I'll see you tomorrow or the day after. It's if the lions don't get me. But even a lion has its pride, so I should be safe. Look, use me as a toothpick. They're starting to bathe there as well. You'll see we're just going to pan over to these starlings that are actually starting to have a proper bath. Just on, there you go, look at that. Oh, and then the dove must spook everyone. Really? Off you go. They're going to come down. They're going to sit in that shallow water again very, very soon. That was a lapwing that flew through the frame there. Blacksmith lapwing. And these little birds breed on the edges of these small little pans. So they're not breeding now. This pair is definitely not breeding at the moment, but they get super aggressive with any of these other birds when they have got a nest close by.
We found the rest of the pride. They're walking exactly where the other lioness went. 4 lionesses, and here's Darkmane. Hey, boy. I haven't seen you in a really long time. Isn't he magnificent? They were all watching the buffalo. We sat with them. Every single one of them are watching the buffalo. And now we've got some kind of cuddle puddle happening. That oldest lioness with the one eye, she just got separated so easily. And they're following her exact path. Oh? You two. Behave. And just like that, they're off. They're heading straight for the cut line as well. And many of you are happy to spend time with Darkmane. I know, he was always my favourite. And I don't think life is easy for him. He's a male lion, and he's prime. Rarely gets to see his coalition mates. Stuck with the girls, which I imagine can't be easy. And of course, he's got a permanent limp. Okay, let's see if we can just go forward a tad, because those girls are crossing. I cannot believe they have just ignored the buffalo. The buffalo are behind us. They're hungry. They're not full. Look at Darkmane. Look at his limp. It's always there. It's not a recent injury. I just think it healed wrong, and he's never been the same. Okay, I'm just going to go a little bit closer. Oh, bless you. Oh, wow. Well, it was magical to find them, although they didn't stay on Djuma too long. He's just magnificent. So as I watch my Talamati pride cross over into Buffelshoek, we're going to send you back across to the mating pair.
Welcome back, and what perfect timing. Just as they started to mate. Now, I think it was just out of screen there, but as the male walked off away from the female, he walked in the direction of those 5 youngsters, and they got a little bit of a fright, and 2 of them actually scattered off. And this morning, this male, out of frustration because this female didn't want to mate with him, kept taking it out on the 5 youngsters, and any time he could get anywhere near to them, he would chase them around, swat at them, and try and bite them. And I think that they're still feeling the effects from this morning. But now that the male is able to mate with the female, it seems that he has completely lost all focus and attention towards those 5 youngsters and has left them alone. But they are starting to get a little bit active. But let's stick with this female as she gets up, see if this male is going to follow her. Although I said earlier that they do mate every 20 minutes or so, I have seen lions mating within 30-second intervals. But I don't think that's what she's keen on. But I'm sure he's not going to let her too far out of his sight. There is just some nice long grass off to the right there. I wonder if she is going to either go lie down on the grass or just have a little bit of a toilet break. I've just lost her now behind the bush. Oh, I can just see her ears. But for now, let's see what these youngsters are up to. So still in a ball, but you'll notice that they're grooming each other and grooming themselves. A couple of yawns. There we go, rolling over. Oh, not a lot of space there. Growing up, we used to call this a Christmas bed, when myself and my sisters and my cousins would all go lie in one big bed, or make a bed on the ground and all lie all tightly knitted up together. And we would call that a Christmas bed. So here we have a Christmas bed of lions.
Those were the days.
Marcel says he also remembers those days of having Christmas beds. Now I think we're all just a little bit too old for that. And clearly these 5 youngsters aren't. See the 2 off on the left, more biting and playing with, and the ones on the right busy grooming each other. All these are part of building the bonds. I believe there's lots of viewers out there who's laughing at the terminology Christmas bed. I'd be interested to hear if that is just a South African word, or in whatever other wonderful countries the rest of you are all from, if that's also something that you would use, a term you would use, and if any of you have fond memories of having Christmas beds as kids.
I can see these youngsters building a blanket fort.
So this grooming and yawning pretty much means that it is almost time for them to get active. And often after a long day's worth of sleep, youngsters like this who just have too much energy for their own good should get up and start to run around and tackle each other. I don't think they're going to tackle the 2 adults that are currently here, because they're a little bit preoccupied and it's a little bit tense amongst them. Ooh, I can hear some branches breaking off to my right. So this morning we were at that waterhole, which is maybe only not 5 meters, that's a terrible distance calculation, probably about 30-40 meters away from where we had a thicket. And judging by the amount of noise I can hear, I think it's probably just maybe one elephant bull who could be walking down towards the water to have a drink. And who knows what he's going to do after that. If he does head this way, it's going to be quite exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time, because elephants do not get on. Certain. All right, well, I think we're almost at that perfect time of when the lion's going to get active, so I am most certainly not going to go anywhere. But while I wait for them to get a little bit more active, let's quickly head over to Ngala.
We've just made it to the bank of the Timbavati River, and we're in the area of where the lioness and her 2 cubs were last seen yesterday evening. And we've just seen 2 inyalas, so this one and then another one a little bit further into the bushes. You might just see its head moving up and down. There's a nice shot of it there now. And we are no more than 100 meters away from where we left those lions coming down to drink last night. And one of the things that we noticed was the smell of those lions. I mean, 18 lions all basically walked down and did their business in the river. And so there's a very, very strong smell of lions. And that's not a good thing to be around if you are a lioness who's trying to keep her cubs nice and hidden. And so she might have decided to move them along, and so we decided to take a river cruise just to see if we might see any sign of her and look at the view that we are driving into. This is, so we're heading straight west, we're heading straight into the sunset along the Timbavati River, and just look at the view that we have. It's so special. These clouds are just getting the beautiful afternoon light, and this part of the river is really nice because there's very, very steep banks, and so we're getting these beautiful silhouettes of trees above us. So one thing that will make it even more special is 3 lions, a mother and 2 little cubs. But I think we might carry on driving from here. I mean, these Inyalas are completely relaxed. So if they had seen those lions, we would have heard alarm calling, we would have maybe seen them running. And so I think I'm going to continue driving down the river whilst we look at the sunset. The snow leopard, there's definitely not anything like a river cruise, especially along the mighty Timbavati River. And I'm just going to take it really, really nice and slow. There's some big rapids up ahead we have to be cautious of. But I just don't want to miss this lioness, because if she's got her cubs, she might be keeping them in the bushes. And so we're not looking for lions sprawled out across the sand. We're looking for little flicks of the tails or those little black spots deep inside these bushes, as she's wanting to try and keep them nice and safe. It is helpful trying to look for tracks at this stage, but I think, just because there's been so many lions around, there's just too many tracks for us to work out which ones are the fresh ones and which ones aren't. So as we continue along the river, Mike at Pridelands has got something cool for us, so let's go and see what it is.
Welcome back, everyone. So we had a bearded woodpecker, and of course when the bird gods or the camera gods call us to show you the bird, they fly off. But it's okay, we're going to keep driving down this road. So we're on Marula Lane now, as you'll, or those of you who've been tuning in know, the hot spot for us. Marula Lane is a beautiful road that wends its way through and underneath some mighty marula trees. We've had some good luck there. I know we've had lots of elephants in the past there. They love marulas, especially in the summertime. They'll be there more often. Of course, just driving along the drainage line that's just on the left here of us is a good place to search for animals. It's a good place to maybe spot that last-minute leopard that pops out of the drainage line, looking for some early hunting opportunities. We can feel the temperature now. Since the sun has gone down, it's gotten very cold. So yeah, it's really good opportunities. See, the elephants love marula trees. There's a marula tree right in front of us, actually, which has been knocked down by some elephants. So you can see, actually, they've pulled it down. They probably debarked it. They probably took the bark off, eating some of the cambium, and then they've actually broken it down, or something's broken it, maybe lightning strike, or maybe fire in the part. No, it wouldn't have been fire because it's not burnt, but something broke it down. And then you can see the elephants have actually started using it as a mud post. You see they're rubbing all over there. You see them, it's caked on the side of it. So we're close to the dam, so they'll come down and they'll drink. Then as they walk down here, they'll feed. Remember, we even filmed it not long ago when Geert was here, and we actually had the elephants using their tusks to strip the bark off these trees. Now, marula trees are quite special in that they're one of the only trees that can actually survive being completely ring-barked. So now you can see, even though this tree is broken at the top there, it looks kind of hollow, and the bark is missing, at the bottom there's still some bark. And what we've seen before is that this tree can start to do something called coppicing, which is where new shoots start to grow from basically all the way at the bottom, and the tree basically starts all over again. Because it's a soft wood and it has a few little bits of tissue which can actually go through it. And there's all the bits of wood that are there, and they won't last very long. You've seen sometimes leadwood trees can last hundreds and hundreds of years, but this marula is very soft, and these branches will actually be broken down by termites and by wood-boring insects. In the matter of a year, we might not see any of these branches anymore. But what's really useful is that these branches can be used to make fire. And I'll explain that in a second. So I didn't quite hear the question. Debbie was asking something about if there's something that elephants specifically like. Ooh, specific roots that trees, that elephants like. Well, actually, earlier today we saw, or was it yesterday, I can't remember, a very big elephant bull pulling a whole buffalo thorn out of the ground, completely, the whole thing, and just wanted the roots. It was like eating carrots, literally twisted its trunk around the base of this buffalo thorn tree and used its tusks as a lever and just hauled it out the ground, and then just started breaking off the roots like carrots and just crunching on the roots and then throwing them down the pith. So I think they buffalo thorn roots at this time of year. But we've noticed them targeting specific trees. Every year it seems like they target a different tree. You know, some years we might see them pushing over lots of bush willows. Some years they'll be going for tree wisterias and all sorts of things. So I read an interesting article where they actually talked about elephants being cognitive, being intelligent enough to know when they are, you know, damaging a specific resource too much, and then they target a different resource the next year and maybe give the trees a year or two to recover. I don't know what the specific outcome of the paper was that I was reading, but it was very interesting. And I mean, we definitely see it. We'll see a year when the elephants focus on one thing and then the next year on a different thing. So I've definitely seen them eating buffalo thorns. This year is maybe the buffalo thorns year. Shame for the buffalo thorns, but good for the marillas because they are getting hammered. Well, anyway, we're going to continue heading down here, watching this beautiful bush change with the sunset.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
I'm really sorry, but so far no luck on these lions, but we've all seen like really, really good lions with our colleagues and that, so all's well, all's well. I'm just taking a slow amble through these areas. We've got a lot more grass. Maybe we're lucky and get another African wildcat, or something like aardvark maybe. But it's just such a beautiful afternoon out here. Temperatures dropping again quite considerably and quite quickly. Stunning scenery, yeah. Any of you that have just joined us at the last minute, if you've been working or something, I hope you can kick your heels up now and enjoy what's left of our safari, because it is really, really special. Oh wow, this is lovely. So this big block on the right hand side from our vehicle, that's where the lions went into. Archers has commented how beautiful it is. Totally right. I mean, this is, yeah. And yet, every single environment is unique. Every place has got its own special little things that just make it so exciting, and you just want to explore anywhere in the outdoors. Doesn't matter where it is, It doesn't matter how big the area is or how small it is. You just got to take the time to do it. I think that's the key. Just go slowly and be patient, and you can't have everything on your plate at the same time, and it's good if you have to work for things.
This is trying to relocate the sighting of elephant until they went to the bush. So I believe even Little Amateur Pride also went to the bush. So right over here in front, we have got a lovely sunset together with a vulture. So we're gonna get to relocate where there's lots of vultures that we can manage to get it as soon as possible. It's still okay. So vultures are scavengers. As the sun goes down, all the birds trying to enjoy. That's why we are here for. If you look forward, exactly those mountains are called Drakensberg Mountain. We can manage to see the Drakensberg Mountain right over here. We are. The Drakensberg Mountain is the mountain which are separating the high veld and the low veld. This area where we are on low veld area. So a long time ago they were called Eastern Transvaal, but at this moment now it's sort of like a low veld area. So we are very, very low above the sea level. That's why it's so called low veld. And that side of the mountain, they're a little bit higher above the sea level. Even the weather, when you go that side, after the mountain, that side, it's a little bit cooler, as you know. The higher you go, the colder it becomes. So this side, it's a little bit warmer more than that area. When the sun goes down, they go very, very quickly. That soon, once it's set, it's getting a little bit darker, especially if it is overcast, no moon. Yes, Heidi, it is a very, very special place, and the weather is always favorable for everyone this side. We never ever receive a snow. It's not cold that much. Okay, believe that as we are on Lowveld, we have received more heat more than the other area. So we'll move before it gets dark because we want to show you some other vultures as well, which are on a tree, hanging on a tree, trying to be scavenging on the buffalo kill of those 3 female lions. Yes, we're going to, on a sighting of those 3 female lions, we did manage to kill a fully grown buffalo.
So we're still in the river. We've managed to watch the majority of the sunset and most of the colors gone. And we still haven't seen any sign of that lioness and her 2 cubs. So there's a chance that maybe she could have started walking in the direction of where the pride is. So the rest of the pride. And I mean, it's not very far away. It must be, sure, about, as the crow flies, maybe about 1 kilometer at the most. And so those small cubs are capable of making that journey throughout the night. And you never know, maybe that's why they're on their way there. So we didn't see anything from the river. We're not going to go looking for her now that it's getting very dark. But we did just behind us, actually just before we came on live, we saw tracks of a female leopard crossing the river, and it was heading up in this direction. So we're actually going to get ourselves out of the river. We managed to negotiate through those rapids, made it out alive. Owen got his hair wet, unfortunately, which he's very sad about. But oh, hopefully this leopard could be on the move. I mean, I always find it very difficult to age tracks in the sand. Sometimes the tracks will look very, very fresh, and they could be from a couple of days old. And sometimes if the sand is very soft, it just breaks down and erodes all of the clean ridges of a normal track in, like the sand on the road, and it will make it look a lot older. So she was cutting straight up towards the road over here. If she was carrying on going in the direction that she was, the tracks will come out somewhere up over here. So I'm just going to take it slow. I'm going to be focusing down on the road and just trying to see if we can maybe see if we can figure out how fresh these tracks are. HB, it's very difficult. You have to be skilled to track in a river with all of the water flowing over the sand. So that river will flow when we get really good rains, and it will flow for maybe about 4 or 5 days at the most at times. One of the most special things you can see is to be here whilst the river's coming down, because you watch it and it starts as a tiny, tiny little trickle, and before you know it, it is bank to bank, and it's up almost up to your knees. So it's a very, very special thing to witness. And then sometimes a couple of hours later, all of the water's gone again. There are some giraffe tracks on the road, and I've just driven over them. But they were on top of vehicle tracks. And so they are quite fresh. So this is around about where we'll actually have a quick look. There's a couple of trees up ahead that this female frequents quite a lot. We might... Okay, so we've got one tracker, one vehicle, us tracking leopard and Dylan's tracking lion. So it's a race. Let's see who's going to win it. Let's go see how Dylan's doing.
I think Eric's going to win on the leopard, to be honest. No, but I believe they were chatting about tracking on soft sand. Welcome to my world. How much sand would you like? How much soft sand would you like? No, there's a lot of sand out here. And in fact, the sand in places can go down to over 300 feet in depth. 100 meters of sand. And it's all what we call aeolian sand, which means wind blown. So, and in fact, see if I must find that magnifying glass. I've got one somewhere, but anyway, I'll bring one out and we'll put some of these grains out in a place where you can see them really well. And you'll actually see they're all rounded. There's very, very few angular pieces on the sand that you see here. So it's aeolian, it's wind blown, and amorphic, so there's no proper structure to it. And that is one of the challenges for burrowing species, particularly those that aren't burrowing very deeply. The deeper burrows go into the substrate where it's a bit firmer, but things with shallow burrows or temporary refugia in the sand, these burrows can collapse quite easily. And of course, what I think it was Eric chatting about it, the challenges of tracking on soft sand. Yeah, there are some challenges. Anyway, so the lions, we had 2 lionesses that disappeared over the dune into that big block. That would take hours to actually locate them in there. And because we don't like driving over these dune crests, that's just from an ecological perspective the right thing to do, or not the right thing to do if you're going to be driving over them, so that's why we don't. So I've just made the call there just to leave those 2 lionesses to do their thing. And then the cubs, they're in a blocks close to that little dam where the wattle starlings were, but it's so dense inside there, it wouldn't be worth to even try to get in there. We'll keep that for another day. I think someone's got a leopard up a tree, or a tree underneath a leopard.
We've got some very interesting behavior happening right now. So we've got 1 lion in the tree, 2 to the left. Now that isn't the interesting behavior. Have a look right between the 2 lions that you can see. You'll see there's a little bit of movement back in the background. There's a rhino, and these cubs and this rhino has been chasing each other backwards and forwards. With them being young, they're still inquisitive. They're learning what they can. And God, there comes a rhino chasing them. The one cub's quite lucky it's in the tree, but is it high enough in the tree? I think that rhino, if it had to swat up, would be able to reach that cub. The cubs know that they're not under too much pressure from this young rhino. We've only seen 1 rhino. I haven't seen a second one. So maybe this is a rhino that's recently been kicked out from its mother, so probably around 4 years or so. And these, there they go. See, the moment the rhino turns around, they come up from behind. They know that the rear end of the rhino is the weak side, and that's the side that they want to be. The moment the rhino turns around and exposes its horn towards them, that's the danger side. That's the side they want to avoid. And then they run off again. So I don't know if this rhino is also playing with them, or if it's just really wanting to come down and drink and trying to chase these lions away so it can drink. Lisa, it is most certainly wild. I mean, we've got a lion in a tree, which is, okay, with this pride quite usual, but not a common sight. But to watch lions busy chasing a rhino around, and particularly lions of only a year old, is so spectacular. And I think if the adults were here, they wouldn't be involved at all. They know it is a waste of time. This play / curiosity that these cubs are doing is is quite typical for youngsters. I haven't seen it very often with rhino, so this is very exciting. I'm hoping that rhino does come out a little bit more into the open. I can't see it anymore. I think it's just gone behind the thicket.
Right behind the line.
Okay. Marcel says he can see the rhino. It's right behind that middle line. It is getting quite dark here, so it is quite difficult for me to see. Oh, there we go. I can just see it. There we go. There it comes. That is a white rhino. I think if it was a black rhino, these lines would tend to be a little bit more aggressive than white rhino. You can see when the rhino lifts its head up, you can see that flat lip, which will let me know that it's a white rhino, but it's also got a very long neck and long face, which a black rhino doesn't have. One of the cubs has decided it is time to come and have a drink, and will probably, once it's finished drinking, head straight back up and continue on with their fun and games with this rhino. This is so awesome. You can actually hear the cub busy lapping away. So I posed a question to the viewer this morning to see if any of them knew exactly how many mils a lion can lap up, because I have been unable to find it. And someone said that they're not sure about lions, but they know that a domestic cat can lap about 0.1 mils per lap. A lion being about 50 times bigger than a domestic cat means that maybe mathematically, if we look at it from a mathematical point of view, maybe each and every single lap that the lion's tongue does laps up about 5 mils. But who knows? I don't know. Tim, it is most certainly one feisty rhino. I am very surprised that the rhino has kept coming back. That's why I'm not sure if it's the rhino sort of being playful with the lions. That is, it wouldn't be usual behavior, and rhinos interacting playfully with other animals isn't very normal, at least with adults. I have seen young... Ooh, if you listen to that, there's some more rhinos fighting off in the distance. That's what these two are busy listening to. So maybe what has happened is that this young rhino that we with has been kicked out recently, and in the time that it's disappeared has maybe gone back into the direction where mom was, and she just chased it away again. I'm not sure if you could hear it, but it was definitely a rhino fighting with another rhino. Oh! Oh, the one lion just fell out of the tree, and the other's got quite a big fright. There we go, listen. You can hear the rhinos busy fighting. You can hear branches breaking, but you occasionally hear that sound that rhinos make when they fight, with a bit of in between.
Just see the rhino.
Okay, so that's very interesting. So we can just see the rhino now. So the rhinos that we heard fighting off to the right is not this one having gone back to its mother. So maybe there's a male busy interacting with a female there, or another male, and this one has moved off to the side.
I'm going to change to IR.
Alright, so we're going to quickly be changing over to the IR camera. It is starting to get just a little bit too dark. So that's why you'll see the color will go a little bit greeny gray. Which has given us much better visuals and clearer view, and hopefully we can see that rhino again. You can see these lions aren't quite sure what to do. I can see the rhino, it's coming back. Oh, this is going to get exciting. They're a little bit nervous. You can see that they've put themselves behind the tree. They want to play, but they're a little bit worried about getting injured. Looking at the horn of this rhino hasn't been dehorned yet, so, which tells me that it's still quite a young rhino, recently been kicked out. So it does have a bit of a horn to defend itself, which could wound any of these 5 youngsters. But they're very quick and nimble and much quicker than the rhino, and should be able to keep out of way of that weapon that the rhino has. Oh, not sure what happened there. That you can hear them busy contact calling with each other. Oh, the rhino's coming back from the side. Seems like that rhino does not want to give up at all. Right, well, I'm very interested to see what happens. So I'm going to stick around for a bit. Maybe try to see if we can get a slightly better view of both the rhinos and the lions. And while I do that, let's head over to the feeding lions at Djuma.
Do you get any comments? Yes, guys, we're still right over here together with those lions, which are still together with the carcass of a buffalo. That is very, very rare, something to get something like this. It's not happening quite often that the 3 females manage to kill a fully grown buffalo. So they are still enjoying. We were expecting that we're going to find the other pride being here. But the other pride not yet. Still here, those 3 female ones. They are all teenagers. You can see that other one, she's full. She's just looking at her sister, what is doing. For her, it's sort of like a joke because you don't have to. There is no competition in here. It's a chance because the meat is it's enough for them. So they give each and everyone a chance to feed and then turn another one a chance to feed and then relaxing. So the other one is just sort of like a flat cat, relaxing. If you can listen very carefully, you can hear when it's eating. He's trying to position himself where he can manage to get nice meat. As the skin, it's a little bit more hard. So guys, the other comments which you heard, it's another vehicle which are very close to us. So they are leaving now. nature will be here for a while. Maybe we'll change to look for the leopard, because now we believe it's a time for leopard. And we are very close where mostly we're lucky to find that leopard. We'll try to relocate if we'll be lucky to find.
Like that, Darby. Just such an incredible setting. A gorgeous sunset. Well, actually, it's probably like another 10-15 minutes before sunset. But it's interesting. We are, actually moving towards summer already. Spring, we saw those little buds on that acacia earlier. So things are happening right under our noses. We just need to be a little bit more alert and start looking for these little signs, these little triggers that are going on. And how that relates to the sunset is, a couple of weeks ago, we were actually watching these proper sunsets going down fully by the close of the drive. And now it's actually by the close of the drive, the sun's actually still up. So, but you all got to come visit. Wowzers. I've got to actually get you out, get that sand between your toes, smell the dust in the air and smell the rain, and look at these amazing thunderstorms when you get them rolling in here in summer. And the heat hazes and the dust devils and the mirages and, yes, the acacias in blossom. Oh man, you got to get you. It's the only way to experience that. You got to be on the ground and just absorb it. It's like osmosis. For those of you that are in awe of this setting, like I say, I've been here going on 16 years now. It was 15 the other day, now it's 16. Anyway, it's somewhere in that kind of region. I am in awe of it every single time. Every single time. And maybe over the next couple of days I'll show you an even more spectacular setting. Not maybe, I will. I'll do that. I think next week I've got some nice stuff lined up. Maybe some mountaintop stuff. Yeah, we'll see. Get some cool, crazy, beautiful creatures. Yeah, I think Eric's going to nail this leopard. So while we share our moment here, head over and get that leopard with Eric.
We found it, and then we lost it, and no, we didn't find any tracks after we saw the tracks crossing the river. So we just got a little bit excited, I think, thinking of the possibility of tracking down a leopard. We are, however, still in the area, and with the spotlight out, just looking for any sort of eyes that might reveal a leopard up in the tree or in the long grass. It would be really nice to end off the show with a little owl or something, and we thought we heard a Scops owl calling, one of my favorite birds, and we think it was a drongo that was mimicking the owl, because it wasn't exactly the right pitch and the timing was just completely off. And so we think the drongo was mimicking it, which is very cool. Let's see. Just gonna have to slow down here. You okay there, Owen? And we're all good. Cool. So this is probably one of the more denser parts of the riverbed that we drive through. It's just almost feels like in some places you're driving through a tunnel. And in the summertime when you're driving here, it's amazing. The grass is almost above the vehicle. It's quite incredible. And now most of the grass is probably just under knee height. And so it's a really nice time of year to drive here because you get to see into the bushes so much more. So we've got a few more minutes to try and find you some sort of owl. We'll be looking really hard and hopefully we get to find one. And let's see if Lauren's got anything special with her spotlight out.
I'm going to be leaving the telemark.
I am looking for something last minute, and this may not be an animal, but look at that skyline. I think we'll be able to show you it in colour. The sky is heavy with dark clouds. It's been quite a dramatic sunset tonight. Look at that. The clouds are rolling on in. It looks like someone's pulled a woolly blanket over the sky. Now, just before I forget, I visited the den. It was quite late, but no one was home, not a soul. Not the cubs or the adults. But of course, I will go every day, as you all know that. Twice a day, if I have to. But it's been a very lucky day with the Talamatis. That's them all, I just heard on the radio, that's them all back up in Buffelshoek now. Including the cubs, 5 adults in Darkmane. But I think we'll see them more and more often. They'll keep pushing down. Isn't that gorgeous? Joy, you're saying apparently there's a meteor shower tonight. Wow, I didn't know that. Thank you. We'll keep a lookout. Although if the clouds keep rolling on in, we may not see anything, but I'll definitely keep a lookout. Thank you, Joy. Okay, now I'm on quarantine and dinner is not too far away. So we're going to bumble into this blanket of clouds and we're going to send you guys across to Raymond to end the show.
Yes, we are still right over here together with those lions. They're making a turn now. It's another one coming to eat, as I said earlier on. That they give a chance because they see that the food is enough. They don't have to compete or fighting, trying to who's going to get a better piece. So that other one she's left and she give that other one was sort of like a flat cat to come and eat. So those sound you heard, there are some other people who are just coming to join us. And not 100% sure now for the hyena. But as the hyena, they are also very good on smelling. Anytime they will come immediately, but at this moment we haven't seen any. So, but anytime they will come. So they will come anytime we can manage to see them. But the lions, they won't move because the food is still enough. So those lions, they need to protect for the hyenas. I believe that you did enjoy our show. We're going to meet again on the same time, sometimes. Goodbye.